Welcome everyone, my name is Ebuka Obiuchi and you're welcome to this Robin Mind special in partnership with the Future Project. We're going to be talking about several issues along the way, including security, politics, the economy and everything in between as we move to 2023 when politics will hit its peak. Let's start the conversation. Don't just stand there teasing me. Now it's time to show and
United we'll stand. It's better we live together as one. Nigeria, united we stand. It's better we live together as one. We are one Nigeria. We will rise. We are one Nigeria. Stand. Oh, we are one Nigeria. We will take back our land and make it a better place. We getting better. We getting stronger.
Welcome to the 2 weeks Robin Mind special of the Young and Emerging Leaders Symposium in collaboration with the Future Project. Africa's largest economy, Nigeria, recently exited its second recession since 2016. Nigeria had been grappling with low growth before the coronavirus pandemic triggered a recession and created large financing gaps, including dollar shortages and inflation. The buying power of Nigerians has dropped drastically as their income has remained fixed, while prices of goods skyrocket. On the Young and Emerging Leaders Symposium on Rubbing Minds in collaboration with the Future Project, on the first panel, Ebuka speaks on the policies and policymaking in Nigeria and its impact on the economy with Professor Kingsley Moghalu.
Now we're going to be starting our conversation today speaking on the economy. And we have a special guest here with us who is a man of many parts. He's a politician, a political economist, an officer of the Order of the Niger, and a professor, I believe. Professor Kingsley Moghalu is here with us. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Ebuka.
Let me just start very quickly with something that is obviously on the minds of everybody around the world, which is the pandemic. We're hearing about so many variants now, which is quite troubling. I saw a headline sometime this week saying that Africa has hit its highest number of cases this week since the pandemic started in March 2020. So it looks like things are even getting worse because of the Delta variant. But there are people who would say that Africa seems to have sort of weathered the storm of the pandemic with regards to number of cases and things along those lines. But with the economy, a lot of countries are struggling, Nigeria particularly. So I guess my question to you is, first of all, with the pandemic, whether it's with regards to how healthcare was managed, but more importantly with the economic recovery, because we're seeing very scary numbers with inflation, with unemployment numbers. What would you have done differently if you were in charge?
What the pandemic has exposed, and this is one of the things I knew before, but it's become clearer to me as a special envoy of the United Nations Development Program, the UNDP, on post-COVID development finance for Africa. And in that assignment, we have studied the economic impact of COVID, the fiscal impact of COVID, and we are working on a report that will recommend options for African countries for the future. One of the weaknesses or fundamental problems we see is the absence of state capacity. That is to say, the absence of capacity among governments in Africa, including Nigeria, to prepare themselves and their governments for eventualities such as this. Many African countries have had to borrow. Nigeria, for example, was not able to provide a robust fiscal response in terms of palliatives, financial palliatives for its citizens. You saw, for example, in the United States, they were distributing their checks for $1,200, $600, and so on. But we were not able to do that in this country. South Africa was able to do something to that effect. Some measures were put in place by the central bank to help support businesses. But that was not enough. I think our response was to the tune of about $3 billion. South Africa was able to respond to the tune of over $20 billion to support its citizens. So what I would have done different is that from the beginning, as a leader, what you understand is that you have to position your country, invest in social infrastructure, that is healthcare and education. Make your country fiscally robust by developing sources of domestic revenue for your country so that you don't have to go a-borrowing all the time. Because as we know, he who goes a-borrowing goes a-sorrowing. So Nigeria has a very weak fiscal base, and because of that, the future of the young Nigerians today is being mortgaged. The National Assembly has just approved another $6 billion borrowing tranche. So a leader prepares for the future before the future comes. And so that when that future comes, that future is the future you envisaged, not a future that is very different from, what you want, which where we are today with COVID in Nigeria. So risk management is also a very important part of the thinking of any leader in the 21st century. And that is something I would prioritize. You've got strategy, you've got risk management. Those two are necessary.
So, I mean, is it fair to say that, because a lot of people in government have argued that, you know, they were caught between a rock and a hard place, where the first recession we saw in 2016 was almost inevitable, according to the analysis, because oil prices were always going to crash. They came in at a time when it happened. There was a recession at the time. We're just starting to sort of witness a recovery, then COVID hit. Are we being fair on them with your analysis now, saying they were not prepared, considering how they have sort of presented their case, saying they were in a tough place anyway?
I think, you know, we have to be balanced in the way we look at these things. But I'm being more than fair because I'm actually being kind. Because when you talk about inevitability of the oil price crash, that takes us to a fundamental issue of governance. Why is Nigeria a monoproduct economy that relies only on crude oil for its fiscal revenues? Why can't Nigeria generate taxes from amongst its people? Why is our tax to GDP ratio 6%, one of the lowest in the world? This is why we are where we are. It's not just about COVID. There are fundamental factors that our government and our governance and our politics should address, but are not addressing. And so, you know, in Nigeria, we are all about politics, but we're not about governance. So all you have is politics without governance, and it's the consequence that we are seeing in the impact of COVID in this country.
I like the fact that you touch on unemployment there, because that's something that's very piercing to a lot of people. Like you said, about a third of the Nigerian population is unemployed. If you focus on young people alone, it's almost half the young population
Absolutely.
in Nigeria is unemployed. If you add the underemployed numbers, it's even scarier. How do you come out of a situation like this? Because we're even hearing that we've not even peaked yet, that things will even get worse before they start getting better. How do you come out of such a scary position now? Because COVID is still here with us. Most economies are still not opening up. Some of the sectors that young people seem to be thriving in, we seem to get very conflicting policies with the tech situation. Entertainment is not thriving as it used to because of COVID. So what does a government do at a time like this?
One of the things the government does not do is to try to ban its citizens from accessing Twitter. We have lost billions of naira in economic revenues to a lot of young people and other Nigerians who have their hustle based on Twitter and on social media. This is adding to the unemployment. This is adding to the economic recession. So, but beyond that, I think we need to go back to the fundamentals. How do you prepare an economy such as Nigeria to employ its citizens? One of the things you do is that you create an enabling business environment. You create an enabling business environment by encouraging innovation and the mass production of the products of innovation, for example. You work on the educational system by investing, especially at a time like this, in making sure that young people have skills and access to capital. Some of that is being attempted, but I don't know how efficient these things are when they are done by the government. The problem, one of the fundamental problems we have in managing Nigeria's economy is that there is absolutely no philosophical foundation for economic management in Nigeria. And go and check the economy of any country that is prosperous. There's always a very clear philosophical vision underpinning how it's managed. Why am I saying this? In Nigeria, the government is everything and is into everything. But you have to create a proper balance between the state and the marketplace. So if the government wants to dictate the price of fuel, the government wants to dictate the price of your SIM card, the government wants to dictate, the government in Nigeria is everywhere and it is suffocating our country, suffocating our economy. So When they try to do these interventions, palliatives, this, that, it's always the government. What happens? At the end of the day, corruption comes in, political favoritism comes in, and the marketplace efficiency is lost, and therefore more people remain unemployed. When you're doing all these social interventions, many of them are just recycling poverty. It is not creating wealth. I am in the business of creating wealth. How do you create wealth? You allow the private sector to drive the process. You create an enabling environment for that private sector to run businesses, and then you maintain a regulatory eye on them. Because you can't let everything just go haywire. Otherwise, it will be dog eat dog, And you will have a mind for the poor. But you see, for you to be able to do social welfare effectively, you must first create wealth before you can redistribute it. You cannot go and be borrowing money and say you're borrowing to fund a palliative program. Who does that? We need a massive venture capital fund of not less than $1 trillion, in which the government is only an investor, but the government will not run it. Because if the government runs it, politics will go into it. The private sector should run the fund, and that fund will give young people and unemployed people capital, but not credit. Another problem we have in Nigeria is that everything is credit-based. And because the price of capital is high, interest rates are high, so the government tries to subsidize this by using central bank interventions at single interest rates. But one of the things that happens is that anything the government is doing, people see it as AWOOF money. We need to come and get this money from the government. So there is no efficiency in it. There is no risk management of it. You're not sure how many people are paying back those loans in reality. You're not measuring the economic effect of those loans. But if it was venture capital, which is equity capital, the venture capital fund will give you the money and co-own the business with you. You don't have to pay back any credit, so you're not under the burden of paying back with interest rates and all that. But the investing fund will co-own your business. So they will make sure that you're practicing proper corporate governance and that you're not wasting their money. And so if you run your business successfully for 4 or 5 years, you make profit, you can buy them out. The fund can exit from your business. These are the kinds of things. And then a lot of investment in skills. A productive economy is an economy with productive knowledge, know-how. That's what we call it. That's what creates economic diversification.
All right.
And that's what creates.
I just want to quickly touch on the central bank, which you mentioned here. The Naira is pretty much embarrassing at this point. It's almost a compliment to say it's in a free fall, because nobody understands what's happening there. What's your honest...
That's my favorite currency.
What's your honest analysis of the way the central bank has handled the situation with the Naira? And, they had a Naira for dollar policy some time ago. I don't know how that's worked out. What do you think about, Godwin Emefiele and the central bank and the Naira?
Now, this is not an analysis or an opinion about any individual. Let me say one or two things about the central bank for the record, and let it be very clear. One, Nigeria is relying excessively on the central bank for the management of its economy. And that's one of the signs that the Nigerian state is failing. When you see a central bank being involved in as many things as our central bank currently is involved in, and yet the fundamentals are getting worse, the economy is not improving despite all the central bank interventions. There are many people who still cannot afford 3 square meals a day. So that is not the fundamental role of a central bank. This is the point I'm trying to make. The management of the Nigerian economy is based on about 3 or 4 pillars, or should be. You have national planning. You have the fiscal side of economic management, that is public revenue and debt management by the Ministry of Finance. Then you have monetary policy by the central bank and the financial system and the payment system of the private sector. Then you have trade policy. So these are all aspects of the economy. But today in Nigeria, many people, when you talk about the economy, their immediate point of reference is the central bank. That immediately tells you that the central bank is being overburdened. One of the consequences of this is that the central bank becomes less independent than it should be. You see? And therefore, it begins to serve the interests only of the government, but not of the larger economy, or to serve the interests of a regime or a government in power at a time, but not the longer term interest of the economy. So my short-term solution is this. There's no getting away from it. The government cannot continue to fix the price of the naira, which is what the central bank is trying to do. When I was a deputy governor of the central bank, oil was at about $100 a barrel. So we had the latitude to do what we call the managed float regime. And we kept the naira within a band relative to the dollar, between 160, 165, that sort of thing, for most of the time. And we were successful, because we had the firepower to do that. But the economic environment in Nigeria today has changed fundamentally. And so I say we have to float the naira. The naira has to find its price and its value in the market. What does that do? It's going to be rough at first. I want to tell you, it will be horrible. It could mean the naira going up massively. But what will happen? Just like the SIM card many years ago used to cost 20, 30,000 naira, and today you can pick it up for nothing. Market forces will bring the price of the dollar down. Nigeria is a 200 million population economy. Many people want to invest in it. They're prepared to bring in dollars if they feel that they make a profit. The more people bring in those dollars to make a profit, the demand and supply factors will kick in, the price of the dollar will begin to drop. Second, if you float the naira, you stop subsidizing imports. The way our country is structured today, with the way the central bank is going, it is subsidizing an import economy. While the policy position officially is that we want made in Nigeria, it's not going to work because there will be arbitrage. Some people will access the naira at proper official rate, sell on the black market, even though they tell you they're producing something with it, but it's not true. So what you do when you float the naira is that you create an incentive for those who want to export things and earn forex. So that way you begin to structurally shift your economy towards exports rather than imports. But you must combine this with trade policy.
Thank you very much, sir, for that. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. I still had a few questions, but I guess we'll leave it to the future. Good luck with your run and your future in politics.
It's the future project.
And thank you very much for being here today. We'll take a break now and be right back. Please don't.
Thank you for having me.